Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Knitter podcast. I'm Tiffany. This is going to be podcast episode number 2. I have a handful of finished objects, a bunch of whips, and a few acquisitions as well. As usual, timestamps will be down below in case you want to go to a specific section. But that being said, let's get started with my finished objects. So both finished objects are actually knitted in the same yarn. So the first one is my Monday sweater. In my last podcast, I basically had one more half sleeve to go essentially and to wash and block it. So now this is it fully washed and blocked. I will have video footage of me wearing it so you can see it better. But yeah, I am so proud of myself for finishing this. This is my first ever full finished sweater. I technically did finish the cloud blouse before this, and I guess if you knitted that in a thicker yarn, it could kind of be like a light sweater, but this is truly the first sweater. This is definitely the first wool sweater that I've ever knitted. I used the Sandisgarn Merino, which is their super wash 100% merino wool in the color Deep Forest Green. If you see me looking off screen, I have my computer screen behind me with a bunch of notes. But yes, I knitted this in the size extra small. This is a pattern by Petite Knits. Let's go into the actual construction and pattern. I loved this pattern. It was very clear. I think it was a really good beginner, I would say like advanced beginner sweater. Although I honestly think like if this was my first real casted on sweater, even though I technically knitted the cloud blouse before this, I did have this cast on before that and some of the raglans like going. So technically this was like my first beginner sweater piece, and I found it extremely easy to read the instructions. Petite Knits also has a few helpful videos on her channel linked directly to projects. So if you go to like the Monday Sweater project page, there's like a video tab where it's all the videos that she has constructing this sweater. Just like it's just extra instructions, but I do think her written instructions were pretty clear. And yeah, I love the 3-stitch raglan. I think it looks really, really nice. I think it just adds like a lot of great detail and looks like very professional. So I liked that construction. What else? The folded collar I already talked about. And the original pattern calls for a much thicker or wider ribbed edging on the bottom and the sleeves, but I don't like that look. I hate the look of like really long ribbing. I don't know why. I think it just like, maybe because I'm a small petite person, so when the ribbing takes up a lot of room on my body, I think it just looks weird, like the proportions look weird. So I cut the ribbing on the body at least by half. Like I think it was probably even longer, like at least double this length. I think it was like 4.5 inches, and I was like, no, that's way too long compared to for my body size. And I did the same for the sleeves. So I just kind of I tried to match the length in the sleeves and the body ribbing basically, instead of doing the 4.5 inches called for. And I actually made a mistake. So the whole body is knit in 4mm needles, and the ribbing is supposed to be done in 3.5mm needles, which I did do on the body, but I completely forgot on the sleeves because I just got ahead of myself and went into the ribbing without double checking the pattern. I don't mind it as much because I don't mind that the sleeves are a little looser. I don't like that very tight ribbed sleeve look. So although it was done by accident, I think honestly if I were to do it, if I'm going to knit this pattern again, which I easily could, I will probably do the same thing, and I'll actually probably do the body rib in 4mm needles too, because I kind of like the more boxy fit than like the, cinched rib look. But yeah, I just really liked it. And once you get into the round, it kind of goes pretty quickly. It's relatively easy. The sleeves I will talk about really quickly. So the amount that she has you pick up for me would have left a lot of holes on the underarm. And so when I was looking up just a video tutorial, like a generic video tutorial on picking up stitches under the sleeves. I found a woman who suggests to pick up more than you need because you can always just decrease in the round as you go, which you're decreasing sleeves anyways. So I did find that helpful, and you just need to make sure you obviously pick up the same amount on each sleeve. So that is what I did. However, yeah, I think it's this sleeve. So for the right sleeve, I picked up extra stitches, and then when it came time to kind of calculate how many decreases I need to do to like get to the pattern size, I just didn't bother decreasing nicely. I just kind of did them all over the place, which I don't know why I did that, because it just ends up looking very messy. So you can kind of see like there's all these random decreases here, and it is on the underarm, so it's not like the biggest deal, but it does look a little untidy here, which I don't love. And so once I realized the error of my ways, I did it much neater on the other sleeve. So you can see, like, I feel like you can't even really tell where the decreases are because they're much better hidden, I think, in my opinion. I don't know. So yeah, I can't even really now looking at it, I honestly can't even tell you which ones. Well, this one's a little worse. Yeah. So you can see, like, on this side, that's pretty bad. But it's not like the end of the world. You can't really tell when I'm wearing it because it's kind of close to my underarms. But that is something that I should, garbage truck. That is something that I probably should have kept in mind for the first sleeve, and I really don't know why I didn't. I think I was just kind of eager to like knit the sleeves and excited to use magic loop for the first time, so I just wasn't really thinking. But with the second sleeve, I was much more intentional with doing the decreases to get to the right amount of stitches. And then you just decrease based on the pattern. There are a little few details here and there with my knitting that are not perfect. For example, you can see close up right here. For some reason, there's this hole right here. Like, I'm usually a pretty neat knitter. So for some reason, I don't know why that hole is there, and it's right at the front. So it's not enough to really bother me, but it's because I knitted it. So I obviously know what's going on. And also, I'm pretty sure I miscounted the rows in the collar because she has you do a folded collar construction, and right at the fold is supposed to be, I believe, a row of purls and a row of knits, and it's supposed to just kind of fold nicely, but you can kind of tell depending on where you're looking, it really is uneven where it's folded. And I'm pretty sure it's because at one point I did the whole neckline ribbed, and then I think I messed up, and so I had to completely redo it and restart. And when I think I noticed that I did it wrong again, I just couldn't. Like, I think mentally I was like, I just need to move on, and it's fine if it's not super even. Again, I don't think it's very noticeable, especially from a further distance, but it's just something that I noticed. And yeah, so that is my first Monday sweater. I'm just looking at my notes. Let's see what else. We'll talk about the fabric a little bit more. I know I touched on it earlier. Even though it's 100% superwash merino wool, I find it to be still a little scratchy. It's not itchy. I think there's a difference. I think it's a little scratchy because it hasn't been worn ever beyond me trying it on a handful of times. And I did use a wool wash. It's, I don't know, I'll link it in this video if I can, but it's basically just like a generic wool wash that I got off Amazon. I don't know, I feel like with superwash, you don't even need a wool wash. Like, I heard, because it's already superwash, so you probably could just get away with like lukewarm water. But so I don't think that had any influence on the fabric, but it's just like a little scratchy, and maybe it's because I'm very sensitive to wool. Previous to this sweater, I don't have any wool in my wardrobe. The most I have is cashmere, and even cashmere, if it's not like super high quality cashmere, will still be itchy on my skin. Like, if it's J. Crew Banana Republic cashmere, I don't know if there's like maybe it's just like perception and there's no real difference in the cashmere, but I've noticed that like my nicer cashmere pieces like don't itch as much as those ones do, even though they both say 100% cashmere. So I'm not sure what the difference is there, but I've never had wool before because regular wool definitely makes me itchy, and I will sadly never really knit a sweater in wool for myself, even if the yarn like is rustic and looks nice. And I know there's a lot of hype on YouTube and in the knitting world about like wool and non-superwash wool, but it's just too itchy for me, and I can't dedicate months of my time knitting a piece that I'm never gonna wear, or that I have to wear, you know, like a turtleneck with, because it's just so itchy. So I don't know. I'm still gonna try to wear this sweater because I knit it and I made it and it took a lot of my time. So I'm hoping the scratchiness kind of goes away. I think it will. I just think it's because it's a new piece and it needs to be worn a little. And like I said, there's kind of a difference. It's not quite itchy. It's just a little rough. So I think, again, it'll hopefully go away with time, but let me know down below if that's like a common thing with superwash merino wool. I do think she uses a Sandisgarn yarn. I'm not sure which exact yarn she uses, but I just found one that had like a very similar gauge. I did not gauge swatch, which is probably fine because I do think it came out in the size that I wanted it to come out, so I'm not too worried about that. But I will say that after washing and blocking, this did get a lot looser and bigger, more than I expected, because I had never knitted with 100% wool before. So that was definitely a little bit of a surprise. And I do understand now why you really do need to wash and block your gauge swatch, because had I not really sized down in this already, it would be oversized, because I think when you see in the video footage of me wearing it, it looks very much my size, like maybe even a slightly bit oversized. And I actually kind of wanted this to fit a little smaller. So had I gauge swatched, I probably would have been able to calculate that a little bit better and made it even a little smaller, but it's still fine. It still fits great. Color wise, I love this color. And I did purchase 10 skeins, I guess. Like, I'm not sure if they're all called skeins or if it's just the long ones are called skeins. So I bought 10 balls, I guess, of the yarn at my local yarn store, Mother Knitter in New Jersey. It was priced at $10 a ball, so I bought 10, and I really only used about 8. I want to say maybe 8.5. So I think I was playing a little bit of not yarn chicken, but when I was purchasing it, because this was going to be the first sweater I did, I really wanted to make sure I had enough and that they were all part of the same dye lot. So I was okay with purchasing a bit more, and it worked out because I had enough to fully make this little bandana. So this is my second finished object. This is the Romanticist bandana. I can't think of the pattern maker off the top of my head, but I will have them linked down below. And I'll link my Ravelry down below as well, because I documented these there as well. There's a little bit of a fold in it because this has been folded up, because this is actually a gift for my friend. I'm sure she's not watching this video, but she actually cooks a lot, and when she's cooking, she always wears cotton bandanas. And I've just noticed that recently, that she always wears like a bandana when she cooks. Now, because this is 100% merino wool, it's kind of a nicer fabric. I'll just tell her like she could probably wear this when she cooks, but it might just be more of like a fun one that she wears for style rather than cooking. But I mean, it's a very like hardy fabric, so I guess she could do that if she wanted to. But yeah, I really liked this pattern. It looks so cute and dainty. I'm not sure if this is considered lace work, if that's what it is, or if this is just like faux lace, because I don't really, like I said, I'm an advanced beginner or intermediate, so I've never done any like lace work, and I'm not sure if this technically counts as that, but it does look kind of like that. It has an I-cord binding on the top, and then I-cord for the, they're not like, I guess they're straps, yeah, for the straps basically to tie it. And I think it looks really cute. I actually might knit myself one because I think it looks so cute on. She actually has really bright peachy blonde hair. She dyed her hair like a peach blonde, and I thought actually this green would look really good against her hair, like the peach and green. So I really hope she likes it. I'm giving it to her this weekend, and yeah, if I haven't had this video edited by then and she can take a picture and show me, maybe I'll insert it, but otherwise, you know, you'll just have to do with me modeling it. But yeah, I tried it on like once or twice just to make sure it fit. Pattern wise, it was a very easy and clear pattern to read. I think it was like an inexpensive, like none of the patterns I purchased are more than $8. So they're all, you know, for me, relatively affordable. This was the first time I have done an I-cord binding. So that was interesting. I kind of had to like do some mental gymnastics in my head as to like how to actually read the pattern and how it worked. So I looked up a few videos just to be able to visualize how the I-cord would be constructed. And this was also my first time doing a completely loose I-cord. I don't know what to call this. Like it's like a separate I-cord. I know a lot of like summer knits use an I-cord construction for the strap. So I was interested in learning how to do that. So I thought that was fun and ultimately pretty clear, like I was able to do it, you know, relatively easily. Otherwise, the only pattern modification I made is that I believe she does one more repeat of this pattern. So it probably would have been like maybe like this much longer, but I just found it to be big enough. Like you can see on my head, like this already reaches, you know, behind the ears. So I feel like if it was even longer, it would just look actually too big, because I kind of like how it looks a little smaller, like so it sits on your head nicer. And in her photos, it does look bigger, and I just didn't want that look. So the pattern is very easily modifiable. Essentially, once you get to, you know, the beginning triangle part, you could cut it off at any point. So technically this could really fit any head size, and you could definitely make one for a child. You just have to cut the pattern shorter. So that part was nice, that it's easily modifiable. And yeah, I like the fabric that this created. Obviously I had the sweater to kind of reference, so I knew what, you know, it would look like. But I think it looks really cute. And pre-blocking, this definitely rolls up a lot, but I knew that post-blocking it would lay nice and straight. And yeah, I'm just gonna tell her to, you know, wash and block it if she wants to get rid of this like kind of little fold, but with time it'll probably just smooth out on its own. And yeah, any other notes that I had? I think that's about it. I liked knitting this. I think this is a really cute little gift idea. This was very quick knit for me, maybe 2 days, maybe like 2.5 days, that it took me from cast on to cast off to blocking, washing and blocking it. So I think I'll definitely do this again for someone who likes to wear bandanas or kind of head scarves or things like that. Very cute pattern. Next up, I'm going to talk about my whips. I'm gonna briefly talk about this one. This is the Cumulus O-neck tee. I have worked on it quite a bit since the last episode, but I am really losing steam. If you are a fellow knitter, please let me know how you keep momentum with a fingering weight project. I just lost steam with this, really, truly. Like I do have a lot more of it worked, and I worked for hours on it. You can already see the raglan kind of coming together, and it's basically I'm at the point where it's in the round for a bit before you break it off, break the sleeves off, I think. And I'm having a lot of challenge, like really working on this project. And I think it's because the yarn is just so dang thin. It's like I cannot get it to work up quicker. And obviously that makes sense because it's a much thinner yarn, and to get the same amount of garment size, like it's gonna take a lot more stitches. But I'm just really having trouble mentally getting myself to work on this. So what I've decided is, because this is on like my only 3mm needles, and these aren't interchangeable, these are just bamboo ones that I had to buy separately, I'm just leaving them on the needles, and I'm not gonna pressure myself to knit this, because knitting for me is meant to be therapeutic and calming and something to, you know, do with my hands while I'm watching TV. And it's very much like a passion of mine. And every time I work on this, it feels like work. And it should not feel like work, because knitting is not my work. I have a full-time job. So that's kind of like what I'm telling myself. Like, it's okay if I never finish this. It's okay if I don't want to work on this. And I'm only going to work on it on days or times where I really want to work on it. So I'm letting myself let this be almost like a forever whip. And maybe that's weak-minded of me, but I just can't be bothered. And I feel like a lot of knitters do that. Like we fall into the trap of like forcing ourselves to finish things because we started them or because we bought the yarn for them. And it's just like not fun. And I'm like, why? Like knitting is a hobby. I'm not being paid to knit. I'm not knitting this for someone. So yeah, this is my forever whip. I think this is the only time I'm really going to show this again until I finish it, because it'll probably be on the needles forever at this point. And I did buy, you know, the yarn quantity for it, but I've only used up one, like not even a ball so far. And it wasn't like the most expensive. And I'm fortunate that I'm in a place in my life where it's okay if that yarn is just wasted. Like I'm not going to throw it away or anything, but it's like not the end of the world that I don't use it. So I don't feel too guilty about that. You know, I tried to do a fingering weight t-shirt. It's probably just not for me, and that's okay. So this is probably going to be a forever whip for me. The second whip I'm going to talk about, I am much more excited to talk about, and I am 100% confident that I will finish, and that is the step-by-step sweater from Florence. And I actually talked about this also in my first podcast episode because I was talking about this yarn that I bought, and I kind of convinced myself in that video in real time to knit this into a sweater instead of the Sophie shawl, which is what I originally had planned for this yarn. And I'm really glad I decided to do the sweater because I think this looks so cute. Oh my goodness. I love this yarn. I'm really liking this pattern. It's very easy to follow. She also has a folded collar option, and you can tell with this one I definitely did it better. Like this is the purl row that you're supposed to kind of fold it over, and I think it looks much neater that way. It's a very simple raglan construction with a 2-stitch here. I like that the raglan, you can kind of see it, but it's a little hidden by the yarn pattern. And I'm basically, you can tell I've already bound off for the sleeves, and I'm basically knitting in the round currently. So this worked up very quickly for a few reasons. One, I was motivated to knit it because I was just excited to cast on a new project. That's kind of, I feel like you always have like a lot of momentum when you're casting on a new project that you're excited about. The second thing is this yarn is nice and chunky. It's knit with 5.5mm needles, which is the thickest I've actually ever knit with. And it felt like such a breeze to knit with something so thick after working on the Cumulus tee for like 2 days. I was like, wow, this is like a world of difference. And also that, yeah, like this yarn is so, it's exactly as described, which is it's the soft and sleek line, and they have a ton of different colors. They have also a range of the marbled kind of colorway. This one is in Parisian Light, and it truly is soft and sleek. I don't know what they put in this acrylic yarn, but it is so dang soft, and it is honestly a dream to knit with. It's very smooth, it's not splitty. It's just so easy to work with that I am probably going to knit another sweater in this yarn. Like that's how much I like it, even though it's 100% acrylic. And that's why I feel like acrylic yarns get an unfair bad rep. And I understand they're 100% like synthetic, so they're not as environmentally friendly, like yada yada. They, you know, don't last as long maybe, but I don't know, again, like for me, knitting is just as much about the experience as the finished product, and this yarn is just so fun to knit with. I can truly see myself knitting multiple sweaters in this yarn, and if I can find a closer to DK weight version of the soft and sleek, I will probably knit a Monday sweater in the DK weight. This yarn is a little chunky for the Monday sweater, so I'd probably have to really downsize and do some math, but this is almost exactly the right gauge for the step-by-step sweater. I actually think it's maybe a slightly thicker potentially. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will talk more about it in detail once I actually finish it, so I'll have all those details. But this is where I am right now, and I'm essentially putting this on pause because My husband and I are doing a big trip to Switzerland at the end of July, which I'm so excited about. And this is going to be the one project I bring with me to knit on the plane back and forth, as well as just while we're in Switzerland for 2 weeks. And I will bring enough yarn, obviously, to finish the project, because I'm pretty confident with all the plane rides and train rides we have planned that I will probably be able to finish this project. So now essentially all that's left is in the round of the body, do the sleeves, and that's it. So I feel like that's a good travel project to have. And if I end up finishing it early, that's fine. I do plan on buying yarn while we're in Switzerland. I have a few yarn shops kind of pinned, so I'll have kind of a backup project that I want to do and bring needles for it just in case, but this is basically on pause until we go on that trip, and hopefully I'll finish it on that trip. Now the third project is kind of 2 projects, but I only have one to show you, and it's 2 Sophie scarves. I talked in my first podcast that I was going to cast on a Sophie scarf in this yarn. I'm actually not 100% sure who I'm going to gift this to, but I have a few Christmas gifts that I'm knitting for, and I think I'm going to do Sophie scarves for everyone, because I think it's just the easy, not like easy, because it does take a lot of time still to knit this, but easy as in like it's a mindless pattern and you can kind of just knit it wherever you are. So I really like this pattern, and it's popular for a reason. I get it. I know it's the basic bitch knit of like forever, but I can see the appeal. So I really like this yarn. I think it looks really pretty in the Sophie scarf. I love this light blue color. I have enough that I'm sure I'll be able to probably make 2 in the large size. So I'm thinking of gifting this one to my sister-in-law, and then I think I'm gonna make another one maybe in the small size and have that as like a bonus little knit thing for one of my nieces. Maybe I'll even knit 2 in the small. I'll have to calculate to see if I have enough yarn to do like 1 large, 2 small with this ball of yarn. And that way she can kind of match with her daughters. I feel like that would be really cute. So yeah, I'm basically almost at the halfway point right now. And this is kind of like a casual whip. Like I'm not actively working on it. This is just something it's easy to travel with. So I like to bring this when we're doing like a pool day or running around and doing errands. So it's just like easy to bring out and work on versus like a sweater. So, and I am not gonna have this, the deadline is Christmas, so I have a lot of months to work on this. And I also technically have another Sophie scarf on the needles at work. So I always have a knitting project that I keep at work because, you know, we have like lunchtime and breaks throughout the day. So actually a few people at my job also knit. So it's kind of fun. We kind of have like a little knitting group, which is cute. So I have another Sophie scarf using the Hobbii Twister Cotton DK yarn that my Tombow tee is knitted in from the first episode. If you watch that, it's the exact same yarn, I just had extra. So I'm knitting another Sophie scarf for another friend gift in that color, and that one's like a cotton acrylic mix. This one is 100% wool. I think it's superwash, actually, 100% superwash wool. And this colorway is, this is the Barocco yarn in Ultra Wool in Forget Me Not. Yeah, you can see here, it's like kind of a maybe heathered, like you can kind of tell there's like a little bit of like white in there, and I just really like this yarn, so I think it looks really pretty, especially in the Sophie scarf. And my last whip, this is like 5 whips, which is the most I've had going at a time. I feel like I'm pretty good at keeping only like 2 or 3 whips going, because I do like to knit different things all the time, so I like to have at least 2 going, but this is truly a lot. But I have a tester Lulu slipover, and not as in like I'm test knitting it. Well, I am test knitting it for myself, but this is the pattern that I also talked about in my last episode that I am planning to knit both my nieces in 2 different sizes, in 2 different colors for Christmas. And I am knitting myself a version first because there's a few elements in the pattern that I've not done before. One is the button band. I think it's a double knit button band or button placket. I haven't read in detail that part, but when I scanned the pattern, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do buttons, which I've never done before. So I was a little hesitant to just start knitting theirs in the nicer yarn that I purchased, which I'll show in my acquisitions piece, but I bought them nice yarn because I obviously wanted it to last longer for them. So I was thinking like, what should I do? And the Lulu Junior Slipover, I'm not sure if she has a women's version too, because I was just looking at junior patterns, but I'm assuming she does. But the junior pattern, the larger sizes, because she gives so much positive ease in her patterns, I don't even have to knit the largest size for it to fit me. For reference, I'm like 5 feet tall. I think I have like an 83 to 84 bust. I'm pretty petite. Like I could wear easily like a girl's 14 or 16 size. So that was kind of nice, and I kind of had that in mind when I purchased the pattern, that I would be able to not only knit it for my nieces, but also potentially for myself. So I am using a much cheaper yarn for myself. This is the Lion brand yarn, the Heartland line that they have in the color Black Canyon. It's a black yarn, 100% acrylic with some of these like speckled white details. I think you can kind of see it in the fabric here a little bit better. Yeah, you can really tell the speckling, which I really like. And I actually bought a bunch of balls of this yarn because initially I was going to do this giant crocheted blanket, and I ended up giving up on that blanket. So it's kind of just like a runner now. Like it's like only like this wide. So less of a blanket, more of a runner. But I ended up with basically 5 extra balls of this black yarn. And I considered doing like a sweater or something, but I just kind of always had this in my stash and didn't really know what to do with it. So when I decided to test knit, 5 balls of this is more than enough to do one of those vests for me. And I figured I would just try it out since this yarn is like relatively inexpensive, and it's more so just to practice some of the techniques in the pattern. And yeah, I was able to meet gauge. This is like not a very thick yarn. It's thinner than the Yarn Bee one, but I believe it's like on 5.5 millimeter needles, it's like 18 stitches. So I went all the way down to a 3.5 millimeter and was able to meet the 20 stitch gauge. But you can see it's like, I don't know if you can tell, it's like a very dense fabric that it's created. Like you can see like it's almost like you can't really see through it. Whereas if you were to knit it with the 5.5 needles, it creates a much more billowy fabric. So I kind of actually like how it looks. I like that it looks really dense because this is meant to be worn as like a slipover vest. So I actually kind of like that it's thicker like this. I think it'll look good. And yeah, basically just started. This is the back panel. I know it just looks like a black blob right now, but I am pretty actively working on this pattern because like I said, I want to be able to test out all the elements of the pattern and then move on to the other 2 vests that I have to knit by Christmas. But because it's a vest and I don't have to knit sleeves really, I think it'll be relatively quick. And yeah, so that's basically where I'm at with this pattern. Now, lastly, I'm going to talk quickly about some acquisitions. So like I mentioned, I did get yarn for both of my nieces. It was really cute. We made a little afternoon of it. Me and my sister-in-law brought them to Mother Knitter, which is the local yarn shop that I go to. And Mother Knitter is kind of not an exclusive Sandisgarn seller, but they do sell majority Sandisgarn. They also do what's the alpaca one? I can't remember what the alpaca brand is called, but they also have a bunch of alpaca, and they do have a few other local like hand-dyed yarns too. It's actually a very extensive store. If you are in the New Jersey, Monmouth County area, definitely go check it out. It's in Red Bank. It's like a very cute store. They also have a lot of classes, and they have open knitting, which I've not yet gone to, but I really want to because I want to meet some more local knitters. But I've been in there a few times to purchase yarn. So this is the yarn we picked out. This is the Sandisgarn Smart Superwash Wool. So I think the only difference between this and the Marinol is that one is merino wool and this one is wool. So I'm not sure what the difference is. Someone who's more well-versed tell me. This one also is meant to not really be itchy. So to me, it didn't really feel that itchy. I guess merino wool is just softer. I'm not sure. But yeah, so this is the Smart. And then this is the, oh, I didn't even realize this was actually technically a different one. And this is the Perfect. I'm not, again, quite sure what the difference is because their gauge is the same. It's 22 by 10. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what the difference is. Let me know, whoever, because even in the English, it says, this one says Superwash, this one says Superwash. Someone let me know what the difference is between these two. But I kind of just let them pick out which color they wanted in the DK weight. They were getting kind of distracted and really going for some of the like fingering weight yarns. And I was like, honey, I cannot, not with that yarn. So you're gonna have to pick a DK weight. But this is in the color Hot Pink. This is for one of my nieces. And then this is in the color Electric Blue, I think. And that is for my other niece. So this is for my bigger niece. So I got her 5 balls of this and then 4 balls for this one. And again, I kind of over calculated a little bit. So I'll be able to tell you all once I finish those 2 vests, whether or not I used up all that yarn. And yeah, I'll talk about, you know, the pattern and stuff more once I have these ones actually cast on, but these are the 2 balls that I got for them. And lastly, just want to say briefly, I did end up getting more of the Yarn Bee yarn in that colorway for my sweater because I only had 3 balls of this because originally I was just going to do the Sophie shawl, but I needed more for the sweater, so I just picked up the last 2 that they had at my Hobby Lobby. But I wanted to show you all exactly what the like brand and color and how it looks. I really like this. Again, I love this yarn. Like, I don't know why, I truly don't know why people don't knit with acrylic more often because it's truly so soft, it's so affordable, and I think it looks great. So, oh yeah, here you can see it was $4.99, like so inexpensive. So that was the last yarn that I picked up. Okay, I'm running out of battery. This was a long podcast episode, so I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.